podcast Global Podspective. My name is Carolina Stefani.
And my name is Juliana Caleffi, and we are juniors in the School of Colégio Farroupilha, located in Porto Alegre, Rio Grande do Sul, Brazil. And we are a part of the Global Perspective group.
Today, as Global Perspective students and also part of the Rio Grande do Sul population, or as we like to call it, gaúchos, we wanted to bring awareness to the situation that our state has been going through. As you probably have heard, Rio Grande do Sul have been through devastating floods, which have led to a disaster that hit 471 towns, killed more than 170 people, and forced 600,000 out of their homes, leaving the state in a truly heartbreaking atmosphere filled with uncertainty and sadness.
The heavy rain began on April 27th in Santa Cruz do Sul in the Valles region. It went on non-stop for more than 10 days, overflooding the Taquari, Cai, Pardo, Jacuí, Sinos, and Gravataí river basins, which overflowed and the water invaded multiple municipalities, devastating cities and destroying lives.
As they are interconnected, the water from the basins reached the Guaíba in Porto Alegre, Lago dos Patos in Pelotas, and Rio Grande, which also overflowed, flooding the municipalities and driving families from their homes. The water reached places where it had never reached before.
As the hopes were already down and the people in the government were starting to react, the news issued a negative forecast with non-stop rain. Friday, the 3rd of May, the level of the Guaíba reached 4.77 meters, surpassing the 1941 record, and it kept going up until it reached 5.33 meters. The state civil defense issued an alert and ordered the evacuation of communities in 7 cities after the partial collapse of May 14th. In all, 4 dams were on the verge of collapsing.
The consequences were unimaginable. Roads collapsed, bridge came undone, town and houses underwater, streets flooded, airports closed, truly the biggest disaster in the history of Rio Grande do Sul.
Now, our classmate Joana is going to explain a little to us of why all this happened, bringing her scientific perspective.
Hi, Joana, be very welcome to the Global Perspective.
Thank you for having me, guys. As you guys said before, I'm going to talk about the scientific matter prior to the floods here in the state. There are three major factors that contributed to the floods happening. First, the presence of a strong wind in the region, a current of humidity coming from the Amazon, and a wave of heat in the central area of the country. So, why does all this factor affect us? These strong winds made the weather really unstable, and the humidity that came from the north of the country increased the intensity of the rains, and the heat wave in the central part of the country made as the cold front from our state could not escape the region. The strong winds made the weather unstable. The humidity that came from the north increased the intensity of the rains, and the heat wave in the central region enabled the cold front from escaping the south. Other than that, the phenomenon El Nino that heats up the ocean.
I've heard of that.
The El Nino heats up the ocean water and increases the instability. The gathering of all of this are considered rare. However, with all the climate changes, natural events like such high intensity will become more usual from now on.
Mm-hmm. And Joanna, tell us, what do we have in store for the climate's future?
So for this year, from what I've seen, the weather will remain more like it is right now, with rains but also sun. But for next year, the beginning of next year, the La Nina will come to our region, which is the opposite from El Nino. So there will go through really dry times with almost no rain, and it's gonna be really hard to maintain the humidity on our region.
So, do you think that at this time next year, maybe another disaster could happen?
I don't think of the dimension of the one that happened this year because the dry weather it affects more the other sectors of our lives, not exactly in such a large manner like the floods.
Got it. And Joanna, I have another question. So, who would you say is the profile and the quantity of people who are affected?
So I would say the profile are people with from low income families.
Mhm.
As an example, here in Porto Alegre, we have the Baixada in the front of the Grêmio Arena, which is a soccer team here. That it's one of the regions where here in Porto Alegre where we had floodings. Uh, and why do people live there? It's a cheaper place to live.
Mhm.
So it's what those people could afford before. And why was it so cheap? It was because from prior years, there were already many floods. That
So it was the value was decreased.
yes,
Got it.
I have some numbers here with me. So the cities that were affected are 452 out of the 497 that we have in our state. Um, we had people that had to leave their homes and lost everything. There are 423,000. Uh, Overall, the number of people that were affected by all the floods and not only lost their places, lost their houses, are 2.3 million.
Wow.
In all of the state. Yes. From people that were hurt, it is over 400, and still missing today in almost the end of June are 34, and confirmed deaths are 178. So, of course, like these numbers are from now when everything has come down, but during the time, all the numbers were oscillating, and every day we got even higher numbers of people that
Yes.
got affected and just lost everything. So it's really
So,
sad.
Juliana, thank you so much for your time and bringing us a little of the scientific perspective of the floods.
Thank you for having me again. It was a pleasure to be here.
You're very welcome.
Now that we talked a little bit about of how it happened and why it happened, we wanted to tell you a little bit about what was the response of people from Rio Grande do Sul and shed some light on the people who helped. So we'll be talking a little bit about shelters and rescues, and Fernanda is going to help us with that.
Welcome, Fernanda.
Hi, thank you for having me. Several civilians and rescue groups went on the streets to help families who were having to evacuate their homes and help saving their pets. For that, many boats and jet skis were used.
Mm-hmm.
There were many donated as well, and they were used especially where the water was deeper and people couldn't reach it that easily.
Mm-hmm. So, Fernanda, what was the first reaction of people when everything started happening?
In the beginning, people did not know what to do. Everything was very new, it hadn't happened before. So many families did not want to leave their homes for several reasons, including not believing that the water would get that deep and reach so many places. And many of them did not want to leave their physical properties behind
Yes.
of fear of them might getting stolen or something like that.
Got it. And what about the families?
The majority of the families relocated to other families or friends' homes, and the ones that did not have a place to go, they went to shelters that were open to welcome them. Um, Here in the state, approximately 70,000 people went to the shelters, and just in Porto Alegre, more than 153 shelters were opened.
Mm-hmm.
And Fernanda, I have another question. What about the animals who lived on places that were affected?
Many pets were taken in as well in some shelters that accepted them, but many weren't and had to stay behind at their homes they were left. And some of those were rescued later by the rescue teams. Even though some families wanted to take them while they were leaving their homes, the rescue teams weren't able to help all of them. Well, there are so many people needing help as well.
Yeah, I've heard some stories that there were people who were rescued like from helicopters and the dogs were like too big or there was too many dogs and they couldn't rescue them and they had to choose like do we save our lives or do we stay here with the animals? And I heard that
Mhm.
many people actually chose to
That's
stay.
heartbreaking, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
a
a
hard
Yeah.
choice to make in a
course.
moment where you
Hmm.
have so many adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also assume that there were some adoptions made of the dogs, right?
Yes, some of them were able to find their owners, and there are many posts online to find
Yes, I saw
the
some.
pets, but many weren't, and the ones that couldn't find their families were adopted or are in shelters right now, being taken care of.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Actually, Fernanda, I wanted to tell you that and tell you guys also that I know a woman who's a friend of the family, and she always rescued dogs from like poorly situations where they were hurt or something like that. And after the floods, she rescued more than 10 dogs, and now she has 25 of them
Wow.
at home taking care of the dogs. And that's amazing to see how many people were kind in that situation and opened their homes to pets and also
Hmm.
people.
So this also serves as a thank you for people who are brave enough to, in this moment of such vulnerability, to stand up and take care of people, whether it be by rescuing or by sheltering dogs or by donating their times to be at shelters or whatever it is, separating clothes, donating. This portion of the podcast is an appreciation to those who helped and stood up during this complicated time.
Well, so thank you very much, Fernanda, for your time.
Thank you, Fernanda, for your time.
Thank you.
We'd love to have you.
Thank
And so now, offering us a little bit of a take on the future, we'd like to welcome Valenttina Almeida.
So first, thank you everyone for the inviting.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Maida, to start off, I wanted to ask you, what can we do in the future to prevent this from happening again?
So there are a lot of farms. Some of them are the construction of efficient drainage systems. There are the superficial drainage that is designed to collect and transform the rainwater. Uh, they are such as gutters, ditches, canals, and pipes, and the coastal drainage system that is used to control the water flow between the river and the lake. Uh, Floodgates and dikes are some examples of that. So it's important to highlight that these preventive measures need a lot of maintenance. So to work well when it's needed.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So another farms are vacating the risk areas because there are lots of people living there and reforest the banks of rivers to preserve the green belt. So this make the water flow slower and infiltrate more into the soil.
Okay. And do you know of any countries that have implemented these measurements and that have succeeded?
So there are some like China that there are the sponge cities with floated parks and green ceilings. There are Veneza with the most project that is a big barrier that helps to the water didn't go into the city. And also the Netherlands with the dike with kilometers of the distance.
Mhm. And Maida, why didn't any of these preventions work? Did we have any of them? And what happened because we couldn't prevent it from happening?
So Some of them didn't work due to the lack of maintenance, so the pumping system didn't work well during the crisis, and the floodgate broke also due to this problem. And also there are lots of people in our country living in flooding areas that flood all the time. So it's very important to take off these people there of there to preserve their lives.
Well, thank you so much for bringing these topics for us today, and let's hope the state works on some of your suggestions.
And
Yes.
let's hope the future is bright. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All of this to say, it is very important that we try to figure out how to stop this from happening again, but it's also very important for us to focus and try to repair the damage that has already been done.
Yes, it's really important for everyone who's watching this to help with donations. No matter where you're seeing this, you can help, you can send money, or you can volunteer. And Colégio Farroupilha, uh, the school where we study, is actually providing a lot of ways to help. So if anyone wants to get in contact with the school, you can help. Any help is welcome at this point.
Whether it be by volunteering your time or donating your money, any help is welcome at this time. Lastly, we wanted to thank everyone that was involved in the creation of this podcast, our teacher, and the equipe from Studio Farroupilha, which is providing us all this equipment and their knowledge in making podcasts.
And we also wanted to give a special thanks to the girls and our classmates who helped us with this, Joana, Fernanda, and Valenttina.
This is all. Thank you so much for watching the very first Global Perspective.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.